Good morning, everybody. Man, there's a lot of news to get to this morning, but first I wanted to tell you, come join the conversation at CanadaPoly.com. It's a private forum, and you have to register in order to see the comments and everything, and to comment. Once you register, you can join the conversation, and I've added some provincial forums, so if you're interested in talking specifically about your province, we'd love to have you. Come and join the conversation, CanadaPoly.com. And so starting off today, there's so much news. I have to cut 4 stories off this video, and they'll probably make this afternoon's video, but we'll see. But I came across this article this morning, and it informs some other things that are happening today. It says, quote, this is a Globe and Mail article, "Government infiltrated by spies," CSIS boss says. At least 2 provincial cabinet ministers and a number of other government officials and employees are under the control of foreign countries as part of espionage schemes, Canada's top security official said Tuesday. In an exclusive interview on CBC's The National, CSIS Director Richard Fadden said foreign powers are infiltrating Canadian political circles and influencing political servants, fueling a growing concern about economic espionage in Canada. Economic espionage, the trading, sharing, or theft of federal secrets, can be considered a crime. He would not name the provinces the cabinet ministers are from. Quote, "We're in fact a bit worried in a couple of provinces that we have an indication there are some political figures who have developed quite an attachment to foreign countries," he told Peter Mansbridge. And I skipped down. It says, the report said that Mr. McFadden has alleged that about 5 countries are casting their hands into Canada's political sphere, including China and countries in the Middle East. Mr. Fadden said in the interview that these and other nations may target idealistic and ambitious university students and try to influence them early on in their careers. They would endeavor to keep in touch, he said, and, quote, "Before you know it, a country is providing them with money. There's some sort of covert guidance." The report said it's unclear how much the government knows about the foreign influencers. Well, maybe they should do something about that. That was 2010. Fast forward to 2018. Here's a Global News report saying how Chinese gangs are laundering drug money through Vancouver real estate. And I've long said, and we're not going to go through all of this, but this is a huge problem. Vancouver is well known to have a Chinese gang problem and a money laundering problem through the casinos and through the housing market. So we have a really, really big problem, and it seems that big problem is partially influenced by foreign government influence. And I mean, I don't know how deep this goes, and clearly in 2010, somebody said this goes deep enough, and I don't think anybody has really been looking into this. It's been one of those things where, I mean, Tom Quiggin has asked the RCMP to look into Justin Trudeau for funding terrorism. This is serious stuff. And if you don't know who Tom Quiggin is, please look him up. He's got his own podcast, and he's sounding the alarm on this kind of stuff. And again, it's falling on deaf ears. Nobody's doing anything. So, I mean, there's articles in Global News, but that's not leadership talking about this. Here's a related article as well. Global News reporting Senator Larry Campbell refuses to answer questions about board role for BC casino companies. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Senator Campbell is being influenced by foreign governments, but this is all part and parcel of a massive, massive problem that is just being ignored. Like, people are talking about other massive problems like pipelines and open borders. I mean, who knew that Canada could have such a monkey wrench thrown into it just in 3 years with Justin Trudeau's completely incompetent, or no, let me rephrase that. I don't think it's incompetence. He's not doing anything good for Canada, but he is funding a lot of foreign countries. A lot of our money is leaving Canada under Trudeau's watch, and we can't account for any of it. The infrastructure funding and spending that he promised during the 2015 election, there's nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it. But our deficits are 3 times the, quote, modest deficit that Trudeau said he was going to run. We're up at $20 billion deficit. And he said we were going to be at 5.7, so $6 billion deficit this time. And this time in his prime ministership. And instead, we're $20 billion in debt, and we're not going to be balanced until 2040 if Justin Trudeau decides that balancing the budget is something that he can handle that day. I mean, is getting out of bed something he can handle? Not most days, it doesn't seem. Okay, so that's interesting. Here's a related story. Money, leaving Canada money. Ottawa to spend $113 million on pre-arrival services for new immigrants. Oh, that's the CBC reporting on January 3rd, 2019. The money is meant to make it easier for new Canadians to find work and settle in. The Trudeau government has announced $113 million in new money to improve pre-arrival services for future immigrants to Canada. Immigration Minister Ahmed Hassan made the announcement this morning at the SUCCESS Immigration Settlement and Integrational Program Office in Vancouver. My goodness, what a long title. Ridiculous. He also announced that as part of the funding, the Success program would receive $22.4 million. The Vancouver-based program is one of 4 operations that provide information, orientation, and referrals to prospective economic and family class immigrants nationwide. The $113 million sum will fund 16 service providers, most of them operating locally. Canada has provided pre-arrival help to new immigrants for 20 years. We're in 2018, so that was 1998 that started. Can we unwind that? Are we allowed to open up a program that's only existed for 20 years? No? Is that racist? Back to the article. The money will go to connecting clients to information and services, offering regional and general employment services, encouraging immigrants to take the necessary steps to convert job licenses prior to their arrival, and linking them to federal and provincial settlement services once they're in Canada. The money will come from immigration settlement portion of the government's 2018 budget, a spokesperson for Hassan's office confirmed. The federal Liberals set aside $875 million over 6 years to fund their multi-year immigration plan. Here is the Ontario government demanding $200 million from Ottawa, as reported in the Globe and Mail in July 24th of 2018. Quote, Ontario demands $200 million from Ottawa to cover the cost of resettling asylum seekers. Ontario Premier Doug Ford's government says it will send the federal government a $200 million bill to cover the costs of resettling thousands of asylum seekers who illegally cross the Canadian-U.S. border. In the latest escalation of tensions between the province and the federal Liberals, Ontario Community and Social Service Minister Lisa MacLeod said she will send a letter to Ottawa itemizing the cost of the border crossers. She said the $11 million Ottawa set aside to help Toronto deal with the added cost is a far cry from the $74 million tab the city will rack up this year in shelter costs for asylum seekers. And I mean, is there any necessity to deal with the out-of-control costs the Liberal government has created before funding pre-arrival services for new immigrants? Absolutely disgusting, Mr. Hassan. Disgusting. You, sir, should not be in your position. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is a federal government that is literally sticking its middle finger up at Canadians, and it doesn't care. There's a $200 million bill from Quebec as well for illegal border crossers, non-citizens who do not qualify. The CBC has reported, and I've brought the article up many times, and I'm going to bring it up again right now. So here it is, CBC reporting in May of 2018, fewer than 1% of more than 28,000 illegal asylum seekers have been removed from Canada so far. And it says, while just over 28,000 asylum seekers have crossed the border into Canada irregularly since the beginning of last year, fewer than 1% of those have been removed from the country. Those figures come as senior government ministers maintain that they expect close to 90% of those who cross the border illegally will see their applications to stay fail. We know, and we knew in May, that these people, 90% of them, will not qualify for any status in Canada. And yet, we have paid millions, almost $100 million in costs. And yet, Mr. Hassan is giving new money for pre-arrival service for immigrants. What is going on? Make Ontario whole. Pay us the money back that you owe us instead of making things easier for immigrants or non-Canadians. Thank you. I mean, this is just insanity. Absolute insanity. You know what else is insanity? Here's Catherine McKenna. This is the climate minister, and she says, fact, unlike conservatives, Canadians understand pollution shouldn't be free. Under our plan, we're pricing pollution, emoji sign emissions, and putting more money back into the pockets of families. With climate action incentive, 8 in 10 families will get more money back than they pay. And this meme here says, fact, 8 in 10 families will get more money back than they pay in direct costs. There's the rub, direct costs, thanks to the climate action incentive. Okay, so I've got a couple of issues with this tweet, climate minister. Just by you putting fact in front of something, that doesn't make it a fact. And I am a conservative and a Canadian. Thank you for trying to dehumanize me, Minister. That's quite interesting from a sitting minister in our government. Also interesting is your lack of ability to use English, apparently. I'm not sure what you mean here. Big blue down arrow. What are you talking about? Oh, is that supposed to say reduce? Maybe try and use English. And your government has regularly lied about the number of families your rebates impact. 8 and 10 families. I just don't believe you. I don't believe you. You are not qualified for your position. And just like Mr. Hussin, you should be removed. Finally this morning, the National Post, and a friend of mine shared this with me, and I thought it was hilarious. So the National Post is reporting Radio Canada parody mocking Trudeau's India trip blasted as racist and completely disrespectful. And I want to point out that this isn't actually the Canada Post or the National Post. This is the Canadian Press. Like, this is a distributed article, right? So, we'll see just what they think of this. But go watch it. The link is in the description and it's right here. It is hilarious. It's really funny. It's all in French, so I have no idea what they're singing about specifically. But the visuals are everything that you would imagine. Well, hold on. Let's see. I'm not sure if I can play it. Okay, here we go. Okay, no, I'm not going to bother. It's fantastic. It's totally worthwhile. You should watch it. But here's the article. It says, a character playing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau takes a drag from a joint and is suddenly transported into a fantasy world where he is dressed in traditional Indian clothing as talking cows are knocked over by a gorilla with Donald Trump's signature hair and red tie. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's really funny. It's well worth watching. But this year, the French arm of the CBC is on the defensive after a barrage of online criticism from people claiming the sketch was racist and made a mockery of Indian culture. Okay, and I've highlighted some people saying this is so racist, it's so racist, blah, blah, blah. It was a parody of the idiocy of our buffoonish prime minister, okay? And nothing more. It had nothing to do with Indian culture. It had everything to do with Trudeau's missteps in India. Get over it, okay? So please go watch this. Come join the forums if you haven't already and join the conversation. As I said, we'd love to have you. And thank you for watching. And check out the People's Party of Canada.ca, Maxime Bernier's party. You might want him as Prime Minister of Canada next year instead of this potato-faced buffoon. Not this one. This guy's just an actor. Okay, thanks for watching.